This is one of the problems I would suggest, in my opinion, chums, with Meghan and Harry. Clearly, they don't think things through on every single level. When you think about it, Harry, as we know, turned up last week, essentially.
Here is what Harry and Meghan expected to happen after Highgrove, an official picture, released while they were still on British soil. The image that would signal to the world and to the entertainment industry watching closely that things had shifted, that the door had opened, that the king had welcomed them back in a way that was now on the record. Here is what actually happened. The pictures were taken. They remain the exclusive property of the crown. Harry and Meghan have nothing. They left with no image they can use, no photograph they can release, no visual confirmation of the meeting that they can deploy on their own terms. And they were, by all credible accounts, genuinely shocked by this. That gap between what was expected and what actually occurred is the most revealing detail of this entire week, and it tells you more about the current balance of power in this family than any official statement ever could. The setup, how the meeting actually came together. First, let's understand how this meeting happened because the mechanics matter. The Marchioness were in the area, they were waiting, but what they did not know, until approximately 20 minutes before it happened, was that the meeting was going to take place. This was a deliberate choice by the king. By keeping the confirmation until the last possible moment, he ensured no information leaked in advance, no tip-offs, no press camped outside, no ability for the other side to manage the optics of the arrival. It was, when you look at it clearly, a very shrewd piece of operational management from a man who has spent his entire life navigating situations exactly like this. Highgrove itself was the right venue. It is a private residence, not an official royal palace, not a crown property in the formal sense, which means it sits outside the most formal layers of royal protocol. A meeting there, Carrie, has a different weight than a meeting at Windsor or Buckingham Palace. It is personal, it is the king's home, and what happens in a private home does not require an official statement. This choice of venue gave the king exactly what he needed, the ability to see his son on his own terms in his own space without creating a formal institutional event that would require formal institutional communication. The Chatham House context. What came just before? This visit did not happen in isolation. It happened at the end of what was, by any honest assessment, an extremely difficult week for Harry. The Chatham House speech, where Harry took to the podium to speak about Invictus, about veterans, about the causes he genuinely cares about, did not play out the way it was intended. Harry was visibly shaken. He looked emotional in a way that cameras captured and that immediately became the story rather than the content. And this is the ill-advised moment that those around him should have prevented, he made a public statement describing the justice system's handling of his case as a whitewash. Let me be direct about this. Whatever the merits or failings of the legal outcome, publicly attacking the justice system, specifically the judge who ruled against you, at the precise moment when you are trying to rebuild relationships with the British establishment and with the British public is not a communication strategy. It is a reaction. And it made a bad week considerably worse. The people around Harry should have been clearer. His legal team, his communications advisors, the people whose job it is to protect him from his own impulses in moments of frustration, someone should have said, do not say that on the record. That it happened anyway suggests an environment where the discipline required to navigate high-stakes public life is not being consistently applied. And then at the end of that same week, the king opened a door. What the king actually did, and why it matters. 47 minutes. That is the reported length of the meeting between Harry and the king. To understand what 47 minutes means in context, compare it to the last documented visit, September of last year, which was by multiple accounts brief, a short exchange, not the extended, private, substantive time Harry has been seeking. This time was different. There was real time. Camilla was present throughout. And it is worth being clear about why. This is a woman whose husband is seriously ill. She is not going to leave him alone in an emotionally charged conversation with someone who has said the things about her in print that Harry has said. Her presence was protective. It was appropriate. And anyone who characterizes it as interference misunderstands the situation. Harry went in first. Meghan waited. The children were eventually brought in. And the meeting ended with something nobody on the Sussex side anticipated. No picture. Or rather, pictures were taken, but they belong to the king. The picture situation, the real story. This is the detail that landed hardest inside the Sussex operation, and it is worth examining carefully. Harry and Meghan had expected, and this expectation was apparently genuine, not just a hope, that the king would release an official photograph while they were still in the country. that the image would go out through official channels, that it would signal visibly and undeniably that the meeting had happened and that the family had welcomed them back. That photograph would have been enormously valuable, not just emotionally but commercially. An official image of Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet alongside the king, released through the palace's own channels, would have changed the narrative around their brand in ways that no amount of lifestyle content or Netflix programming could achieve. It would have been, in effect, an endorsement. Royal vow, idation, stamped and distributed. The king chose not to do that. The pictures exist, they are his, they will be released, or not released, on his terms at a time of his choosing, for reasons that serve the institution's interests rather than anyone else's. This is exactly what a good legal and communications team would advise a monarch to do in this situation. Maintain the relationship, keep the door open, allow the human connection, but do not hand over control of the narrative. Harry and Meghan arrived expecting to leave with an asset. They left with a memory. Althorp and what we don't know. From Highgrove, the family reportedly traveled to Althorp, the Spencer family estate, Charles Spencer's home. Whatever happened at Althorp over the following 2 days is not in the public domain. It was, by all accounts, completely locked down. No information came out, no pictures, no indication of what was discussed or what the atmosphere was. Charles Spencer, as we have discussed at length, is a man who understands better than almost anyone the value of controlling what gets out and what doesn't. His management of the Althorp visit is consistent with everything we know about how he operates. What it adds to this story is context. Harry and Meghan did not simply go to Highgrove and go home. There was a longer chapter to this visit that included significant time with Diana's family. What that means for the longer arc of this story is genuinely unclear. What is clear is that, from a narrative perspective, the Sussex side of this visit produced very little that they can use. The Balmoral possibility, and what it requires. The suggestion that a further invitation to Balmoral in late August remains possible is, based on what I understand, accurate. But here is the condition attached to it, the one condition that everything else depends on. How silent do Harry and Meghan remain? In between now and then, the arrangement going into the Highgrove meeting was clear. No speaking to the press, no public statements, no narrative management designed to extract commercial value from a private family moment. Harry's decision to describe the legal outcome as a whitewash at Chatham House showed the difficulty of maintaining that kind of discipline in the middle of a difficult week. The question is whether that was an isolated moment or a pattern. If between now and August, a carefully placed story appears in a sympathetic publication describing the warmth of the Highgrove meeting and what it meant to the family, if the children are suddenly slightly more visible on Instagram, if the narrative around the Sussex brand starts drawing on the language of homecoming and reconciliation, then the invitation to Balmoral will almost certainly not materialize. The king is watching, his advisors are watching, and the metric they are applying is simple. Can the people on the other side of this equation hold their end of the agreement? The week ended better than it began. Harry saw his father, the children met the king. Something that has not happened in years happened, but the picture is the king's. The narrative is the king's. The terms of what happens next are entirely on the institution's side of the table. And the cable to Balmoral runs through the one thing Harry has consistently found most difficult: staying quiet. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think they can hold the silence? Do you think Balmoral happens? Like the video if it gave you the fuller picture. Subscribe to stay with the story. Take care. See you very soon.